Hey everyone, this is Evan from 20-Sided Knight, and today we're going to make a very special character. A very evil character. Today we're making the Demiurge, the inventor of technology, and the White Devil. The one, the only, Yakub. Peace be upon him. If you're watching this video, hopefully you're already among the enlightened and know all about the glorious creator. But if not, here's a brief primer. Around 6,000 years ago, there were two alien races that lived in the Hollow Earth, aka Agartha, the Shiok and the Sinine. And on the surface of the earth lived the Ebenoid tribe. So the Sinine did this thing where they're able to separate the bad parts of themselves so they could live in a high-trust neighborhood, and their evil halves became beings known as the Sami. One day, some of the Sami broke loose and started to wild out in Shiok territory. And while they were quickly rounded back up by the Sinine, to smooth things over they decided to have a good old-fashioned political marriage between the Sinian princess and the king of the Shiok. However, the princess of the Sinine wasn't a fan of this arranged marriage, so to get back at everyone, she started fooling around with her brother-in-law. Eventually, this led to Yakub, peace be upon him, being born. Once this was found out, she was banished to the surface of the earth and her baby daddy was killed. Because of her grief and now having to be a single mother, she killed
uninstalled Minecraft
and forced Yakub, peace be upon him, to be raised by his uncle who previously decided to slum it on the surface. Because of his heritage, he had two large brains and a big head, so much like Rudolph, the kids laughed and called him names like
Big Head.
Because of this, he decided to get back at them by building a vile race of bioweapons to ruin things for the Ebenoid tribe. And what were these vile monsters that he created?
Honkies.
So that is just a brief description of his backstory. So if you want to know more, click on the Discord link in the description down below and check out the archives. And while you're down there, like, comment, subscribe, something, Al Gore's rhythm. But enough fucking around, let's make Yakub. Peace be upon him. So Yakub is going to be an Elbrain biohacker with the Scholar theme. I decided to make Yakub an Elbrain not only for the obvious phenotypical reasons, but also because they get a nice boost to their intelligence. And I chose to make him a biohacker because they're the default science boys. And I made him a Scholar because it not only gives him another boost to his intelligence, but also reflects how he graduated from every college in Mecca. I decided to make him level 7 because I feel like it gives him everything that he needs to do the things that he does, but without going overboard and making him level 20 or something. Also, keen-eyed viewers might notice that I'm not using a handwritten character sheet like we used to, and instead I'm using Hephaestus to make the character sheets. Because Lance was the one with the good handwriting, and when I asked him to help out, he gave me some BS excuse. Hey man, I know you've been feeling a little bit off lately, but you have the best handwriting out of either of us, so do you think you'll be able to help out with this Yakub video? Okay, no worries, I'll let you get back to it. So like we've done in all the other So You Wanna Be videos, we use the standard array to build out the initial stats. I know it's more of a D&D thing, but we've always done it this way, and who am I to stand in the way of tradition? Also, unlike Starfinder's focused, split, and versatile methods, it can give you some bad stats, which, in our opinion, is a little more interesting. And for those of you who don't have the standard array memorized, that means you get a 15, a 14, a 13, 12, 10, and an 8 for your stats. So we use strength as his dump stat and put the 8 there because, as everyone knows, there isn't as much gravity in the Hollow Earth, so he just isn't going to be very buff. We put a 12 in dexterity, a 10 in constitution, a 15 in intelligence, a 13 in wisdom, and a 14 in charisma. And when we factor in the stat modifiers from Yakub's race and his theme, he will have an 8 strength, a 12 dexterity, a 12 constitution, an 18 intelligence, an 11 wisdom, and a 14 charisma. So for his skills, you're going to focus on culture, bluff, engineering, life science, medicine, mysticism, physical science, and sense motive. We gave him culture so he could know how to best make a vile reflection of the noble Ebenoid tribe. We gave him bluff because Yakub, peace be upon him, is the inventor of technology. We gave him engineering, life science, and physical science to reflect the fact that he has his PhD in, well, basically everything. We gave him medicine because a healthy bioweapon is an effective bioweapon, mysticism because in some of the lore he's basically doing magic, and sense motive to prevent him from getting finessed. And unless we say otherwise, just assume we're always putting ranks into those skills. For his first level feat, we gave him polymath to show that he is truly the master in all areas of study. Granted, since we're always going to give skill ranks in both physical and life science, it's not really going to do a whole lot, but when you're Yakub, peace be upon him, sometimes you just gotta flex on a broke bitch and take a feat that mechanically won't do much, but is more for flavor. And for his primary field of study, we chose to have him go into, you guessed it, hypermycology. Psych! We had him go into genetics, and for his scientific method we chose to make him a studious biohacker. Granted, we were on the fence about this, but studious just felt like it fit better. But if you disagree, feel free to call me names in the comments down below. At second level, he gets a theorem, and we gave him speedy serums. Because with a brain like that, of course he figured out a way to be way more efficient than those quacks at the mech and universities. Level 3. At third level, he gets a spark of ingenuity, which allows him to combine his biohacks to make a super hack. For his third level feat, we gave him conspiratorial ally, which would explain just how he was able to swindle, trick, bamboozle, hoodwink, and Smackledorf, the good people of Mecca, into his technological teachings. Level 4. At fourth level, he gets a new theorem, and we chose to give him instant calibration, which allows you to adjust the hormones of a creature to give it the optimal performance. Mechanically speaking, this allows a creature to re-roll a narrowly missed skill check, but thematically, this would allow him to fine-tune his alabaster abominations so they can keep their technological levels up. Level 5. Remember, every 5 levels you get to increase 4 of your ability scores. If that ability score is 17 or higher, you only get to increase it by 1 point, but if it's 16 or lower, you get to increase it by 2 points, and you can only upgrade an ability score once. So we are going to boost his intelligence, dexterity, charisma, and wisdom, and when we are done, here's what his stats will look like. So while a 19 intelligence is really low for Yakub, peace be upon him, there are some items that we can give him to boost his intelligence to what they should be, but we'll go over that later. For his skills, it's basically the same as before, except I stopped putting skills into culture and started putting them into computers. Because at this point, he's probably learned all he's cared to about other people's cultures and probably needs to start storing all of his research on something more substantial than what can be done on pen and paper. For his 5th level feat, we gave him extra resolve because, let's face it, nobody has more grit and resolve than Yakub. Peace be upon him. Also, he does get his breakthrough ability, Gene Therapy. And just as a reminder, breakthroughs for the most part follow the same rules for biohacks, but they don't count against your total amount of biohacks. However, you can only use them once, but you do get them back after you take a 10-minute rest. Level 6. For level 6, you get a new theorem, and I chose to give him the Treat Condition Theorem, which allows you to treat a creature with a shaken, sickened, or staggered condition, which is going to help when your loyal followers see what you're doing in order to create the kind of foul creature that will be able to utilize technology. As for skills, we follow the same pattern as we did for level 5. He also gets his second ability from his Scholar theme, Tip of the Tongue. This skill lets you re-roll any knowledge check, however you have to use this ability before you know if you passed the check or not. And you also have to take the result of the second roll, even if it's worse than the first roll. Level 7. At 7th level, you get to master a second field of study, and to really show that he is not only making a biologically corrupted monster, but a spiritually corrupted monster as well, I chose to have Yakub go into thaumaturgy. And for his last feat, I chose to give him efficient engineering, which would allow him to craft items more efficiently because even though he was given a lot of raw materials to build his technologist utopia, he had to start from scratch, so building everything from the ground up probably taught him how to work very quickly. So if you follow my steps, here's what he should look like. Last but not least are his items. Granted, based on the amount of money you should have at level 7, it's not a lot. However, you can always roleplay his lack of items as him just saving up for a colony that will carry out the Great Experiment. Or feel free to give him whatever the hell you want. I'm not your dad, but here's what I ended up giving him. Obviously, I gave him a needle gun. I know that in the sacred text he didn't have one, but at the risk of metagaming, if you're playing a biohacker, you basically have to carry one, because it's actually pretty rare that you can, I don't know, slip a harmful biohack into your target's food. Allegedly, but you know. For armor, I gave him a silver grade Abadar Corp travel suit, since it not only protects him, but also can look like his iconic robes. I also bought him a Mark II personal upgrade to boost his intelligence from 19 to 23, because while a 19 intelligence is nothing to sneeze at, I mean, look at his head. That's more than a 19 intelligence. Also, since personal upgrades can take basically any form and doesn't take up a body slot, we will just say that the upgrade takes the form of his second brain if your DM lets you start with a level 7 character. Or if you're playing from level 1 and you have to save up for it, you could just say that the personal upgrade took the form of a drug that would flush the fluoride out of his system, and then let him access his second brain. And last but not least, you probably need some Mark II frag grenades and detonators, just in case your creation needs to be sealed up in a cave and Moses is on PTO or something. So for those of you who've been following along at home, here's what your finished Yakub should look like. Drink it in. Hey everyone, well that's going to wrap up this episode. In the comments down below, tell me if you would make any changes to bring about the glorious creator, and how you would play him in your game. Remember that if you got this far, give it a like, and show it to your friends. If not for me, then do it for Yakub.
Peace be upon
Hey you rascal, thanks for watching the video. Click here to subscribe, click here to see one of our newer videos, and click right here to see something random.